Delhi High Court has extended the interim protection from arrest for senior Congress leader P.Chidambaram in the INX Media Case till August 1st. The CBI has sought time to file its response. Rishabh Gulatia, managing editor, joins us to take you through the developments in this story.
Well, thanks a lot. Joining us on the broadcast, and if I can rope in Dr.Subramanian Swamy is joining us. He is, of course, a BJP MP in the Rajya Sabha, a man who is extremely well versed with the cases that are going on regarding this entire episode, dealing with both the former Union Finance Minister under the UPA, P.Chidambaram, and his son Karti. Dr. Swamy, if you can hear me, what do you think that the money trail is in the charges that have been made by a person who is currently in jail in Arthur Road, as you're well aware, Sir Indrani, and she has made an allegation against Karti, which leads up to the FIBB clearance given by P.Chidambaram. Where do you think the money trail here is the smoking gun?
Well, her evidence she gave was before a magistrate, which is called the Section 164 statement, which is considered as evidence. Whatever she speaks to the police or to the CBI is not considered as evidence. But this is solid evidence because she gave it before a magistrate, and the magistrate inquires first, are you under any pressure, and have you had a deal or any, all these he can ask these questions, which he does. Now, in that evidence, she says that Mr. Chidambaram said to her that, give my son some money for his work, and she did. And she gave accurate details of the bank in which she deposited the money, and that later on by raid of the enforcement directorate it was discovered. So it is established that the amount she said he asked for is the amount that was found as having been deposited by her in Karti Chidambaram's account. He had also made some other disgraceful requests to Indrani, which I will not go into detail. For example, wanting two actresses from Bombay Bollywood to be with him, and that she should arrange it. The kind of thing. I mean, he was absolutely base when it came to doing corrupt practices. Now he has to be confronted. When he was in interrogation, he kept denying everything. But now he has to be confronted with solid evidence. So that before we go to trial, we get his version, which is required
as a person
under the CRPC.
Who has taken on some very complicated cases in your own good self in the Supreme Court and has been successful in a number of them, what would convince you, Dr. Swamy, that sufficient evidence exists? I'm not talking about the court here because the matter is before the court, but what would convince you that sufficient evidence exists to actually tie a particular favor granted by a government to a money deal?
Well, the time factor, the son gets a deposit and he clears the license. That is one factor which he will, as a accused, he will get an opportunity to demolish it, but he can't demolish it. In Aircel Maxis, it was clear that he cannot clear any project or approve any project under FIPB which is more than 600 crore rupees in foreign investment. And he cleared 4,500 crores worth of investment of the Malaysian company Maxis to give them 100% control of an Indian company, which is also a violation of the law because you can't have more than 74% of the shares. And these are what, there is no way you can give alternative explanations for it. It's under his signature, and he cannot say the bureaucrats put it up to him, because the constitutional bench of the Supreme Court says only he, under Article 77 of the Constitution, is responsible. No bureaucrat is ever responsible. They can assist him in processing the thing, but the decision has to be taken, approval by the minister.
Dr. Swamy, we saw a lot of these debates, as you well recall, and you had many of them, these conversations with us during the period of time, also during the entire 2G case, where it was debated, or the point of debate was whether something was a particular policy decision or error in policy versus a criminal act born out of corruption. If that argument is made that this was a policy decision, and if there's a policy error, in terms of overreach. That's a separate issue versus criminal conduct. How do we get around that?
No, you can't have a policy if you are only entitled to clear projects below 600 crores and you cover clear a project by yourself or approve a project by yourself which is 4,300 crores or 500 crores. There is no question of policy here. The policy is the Cabinet Committee on Economic Affairs has clearly laid down up to 600 crores your finance minister can clear or approve. But beyond that, it has to come to the Cabinet Committee on Economic Affairs. So where is the question of policy? This is a law. This is a rule laid down by the Cabinet, which he violated. So, I mean, in this particular case, there is no question of policy.
Okay.
In the 2G thing, the only mistake was that I think I made a mistake in not being in the criminal prosecution side because I thought that this will be handled by the CBI, but there has been anyway, we'll see in the appeal. Appeal, I think we should win in the High Court.
Okay, all right. So, Dr. Swamy, I have a couple of other questions. Because the Congress and P.Chidambaram himself and as well as P.Chidambaram, they've come and repeatedly said, and today they've said in court also in their submission, that this is harassment and a political vendetta.
Well, I think if there was a political vendetta and harassment, it was Mr. Chidambaram ordering one of our finest officers called Purohit and subjecting him to third degree, the kind of third degree they subjected to such a fine officer. That I think itself, Chidambaram needs to be prosecuted for that. But more than that, who are they? I mean, they are the ones who declared the emergency. They are the ones who have created this Hindu terror and put Sadhvi Pragya also and subjected to her to physical torture,
okay.
Sadhvi, and ruined her health. You have to go and see her to know. So they are no ones to talk about it.
Okay, Dr. Swamy, my final question to you, that in a situation where now two cases potentially are being, well, investigated and prosecuted, you mentioned both. One is the case with Indrani Mukherjee and her dealings. The other is the Aircel Maxis case. Do you suspect that there are other such cases also existent that are not being investigated at this point of time during that tenureship? And if there are, sir, why do you feel that the investigations are not happening at the pace that they should have potentially been happening at?
You know that the finance minister had in his budget reduced the allocation for new recruitment of all not only our military but also of our agencies. They are all overworked. I'm surprised that they are producing such good results. The next case after these two will be AirAsia, where the FIPP clearance given by or approval given by Mr. Chidambaram is another scandal, which is now just waiting for it to be converted into a prosecution. So there are plenty, but there is a huge shortage. And look at what happened to Rajeshwar. I mean, that's a scandal of the century, if you ask me. The way he was sought to be framed and got out so that Mr. Chidambaram cannot be prosecuted. I think all those 4 officers who were responsible, whom I call as Gang of 4, they should be prosecuted and put in jail. But Rajeshwar has been, his promotion has been, file has been held up by the finance secretary for the last 8 months, and he is answerable to nobody.
Okay.
What kind of thing is going on? Do we have a bureaucracy which is sensitive to our government, or is it a bureaucracy which its loyalties belong to the previous government?
Okay, Dr. Swamy, for taking all those questions and helping us understand things better. Thanks as much as always. We leave it there. I toss it back to Deepavali in the studio.
All right. That was BJP MP Subramanian Swamy speaking to NewsX on the latest trouble that is meeting with P.Chidambaram. Let's go over to some reactions now on this story.
The judges simply put the date and next date. Reply and rejoinder will be filed. Okay. But I am not saying anything else. You have to go and talk to the CBI, not to me.
Okay. Sir, but they want custodial interrogation of the former finance minister. That's a massive development in the case.
That's up to them to say what they want.
Sir,
they have not filed a reply yet.
Sir, but they stated that they are going to be filing an affidavit to this regard.
Going to be filing means when it is filed, we'll deal with it. Nothing filed yet after 1.5 months.